The night my wife left for Hawaii while I was still learning how to stand after emergency abdominal surgery, she kissed my forehead, set 2 bottles of water beside the bed, and said, "Try not to make us feel guilty for having fun." Our 20-year-old daughter was already downstairs loading suitcases into the SUV I had paid off 6 months earlier. I had booked the entire trip as a surprise after working 60-hour weeks for most of the year. I had also paid the deposit on our daughter's wedding, covered her apartment near campus, and quietly kept my wife's failing interior design business alive with transfers she called temporary. 48 hours after they left, my daughter posted a video joking that I had sent her an emotional novel because I told her I was scared. My wife commented with a laughing emoji. The same afternoon, a certified letter arrived saying our mortgage was nearly 3 months behind. By Thanksgiving, my wife was telling 20 relatives that I had become controlling because I froze the family credit cards and refused to keep funding our daughter's wedding. I placed a stack of bank statements beside the turkey and said, "No, I finally stopped paying people to treat me like an inconvenience." My name is Thomas Reed. I was 47 years old, and until that year, I believed being needed was the same thing as being loved. I live outside Kansas City in Overland Park, Kansas, in a 2-story house with a cedar deck. I rebuilt myself, a garage full of tools, and a kitchen island where almost every major decision in our family somehow ended with me writing a check. I work as a facilities operations manager for a regional hospital network. My job is not glamorous. When a generator fails, a pipe bursts, or an operating room loses cooling in July, my phone rings. I manage contractors, budgets, emergency repairs, and the 1,000 invisible things that keep buildings working, while everyone else assumes they simply work. That skill followed me home in ways I did not recognize. I became the person who fixed everything before anyone had to feel uncomfortable. My wife, Melissa, used to say that was what she loved about me. We met when we were 25 at a friend's backyard barbecue. She was funny, fast, and confident enough to tell me my shirt looked like something a substitute math teacher would wear. I laughed. She laughed. 3 years later, we were married. 2 years after that, our daughter, Chloe, was born. I made good money, around $100,000 a year after bonuses, but we were not wealthy. We lived comfortably because I took extra projects, skipped expensive hobbies, drove the same truck for 12 years, and said no to myself far more easily than I said no to the people I loved. Melissa was good at turning those choices into proof that I lacked vision. She called me cautious when I questioned spending. Chloe called me old-fashioned when I suggested she work more than 10 hours a week during college. Both of them could be affectionate when I solved a problem. A check cleared, a tire got replaced, a reservation appeared, and suddenly I was the best husband, the best dad, our rock. The warmth usually lasted until the next boundary. I did not notice how conditional it had become because I was too busy enjoying the brief moments when I felt included. The trip to Maui was my idea. The hospital network had spent 6 months renovating a surgical wing, and I had barely taken a weekend off. Melissa complained that we had not traveled together since Chloe started college. Chloe was newly engaged to a young man named Evan Brooks, who worked in pharmaceutical sales and came from a family with more money than ours. Their wedding was scheduled for the following summer at a vineyard outside Kansas City. Melissa immediately turned the engagement into a project. She wanted flowers hanging from ceiling beams, custom cocktail napkins, a champagne tower, and a live band because Evan's family knows people. I watched the budget climb and tried not to make Chloe feel judged. We agreed to contribute $25,000. I had saved most of it over 2 years because I knew a wedding might be coming. Melissa said we could stretch to 35 if needed. I said 25 was already generous. She rolled her eyes and told Chloe right in front of me, "Your father has always been afraid of beautiful things." Chloe laughed. I laughed too. That is the kind of line viewers call a red flag afterward. Inside a marriage, you often call it Tuesday. I booked Maui in March. 7 nights in a 2-bedroom condo near Wailea, ocean view, rental car, flights for the 3 of us, and enough left for activities. Almost $8,000. I wanted 1 week when I was not the facilities manager, mortgage payer, wedding calculator, or person everyone called when something leaked. When I showed Melissa the reservation, she genuinely smiled. Chloe screamed and hugged me around the neck. "Dad, you are actually insane. This is amazing." Melissa kissed me and said, "See, this is the version of you I miss." I remember smiling, even though the sentence bothered me. Apparently, generosity was not something I did. It was the version of me they preferred. The week before Maui, I noticed a dull ache in my lower abdomen. I blamed stress. 2 days before our flight, I was in the garage checking suitcase weights when the pain sharpened so suddenly I dropped against the workbench. I remember the concrete feeling cold through my jeans. I called Melissa's name twice. She found me curled on my side 10 minutes later. At the emergency room, a scan showed a bowel obstruction caused by scar tissue from an old surgery I had nearly forgotten about. The surgeon said it could become dangerous quickly. I needed surgery that night. Maui disappeared from my mind. I remember asking whether someone had called my supervisor and whether Chloe had eaten dinner. That is how deeply the fixer role had entered me. I woke after midnight with 3 small incisions, one larger one, a drainage tube, and instructions not to lift anything heavier than a gallon of milk. The surgeon told Melissa I needed someone nearby for at least several days because dizziness, infection, or complications could develop. I expected the trip to be canceled. I did not even discuss it. The idea that my wife and daughter would leave me alone 2 days after abdominal surgery felt too absurd to consider. Melissa drove me home the next afternoon. She was unusually quiet. Chloe stopped by with smoothies and spent most of the visit answering messages about the trip. That evening, I heard Melissa speaking on the phone outside our bedroom. "I know, Brenda. The condo is non-refundable. The flights are credits, but the resort is gone if we cancel. He is home now. He is stable." I closed my eyes and told myself she was only explaining the situation. The next morning, I woke to the sound of suitcase wheels in the hallway. Melissa entered wearing linen pants, makeup, and the expression she used with clients when delivering bad news. She had already decided they would accept. "We need to talk about Maui." I looked at the suitcase. "There is nothing to talk about." "Exactly. It is paid for." I thought she meant we would accept the loss. She did not. "Brenda and her daughter can use your room. Chloe has been looking forward to this for months. The doctor said you need rest, Thomas. Honestly, the house will be quieter without everyone coming and going." I stared at her. "You are going." "The money is already spent. I cannot drive." "You should not be driving anyway." "I can barely shower." I set things up. She pointed toward my nightstand. 2 water bottles, crackers, pain medication, phone charger. "I ordered groceries. DoorDash exists. Your sister is 20 minutes away." "Did you ask Karen?" "No, but she is family." That sentence almost made me laugh. Family apparently meant whoever was not holding the reservation. Chloe appeared in the doorway wearing travel clothes and carrying her neck pillow. She would not meet my eyes. "Dad, I feel really bad." I waited. "Then stay." Her eyes lifted. The request surprised her. Melissa answered first. "Thomas, do not put her in the middle." "I am not. I am asking my daughter whether she wants to leave her father alone 2 days after surgery." Chloe's face tightened. "You are home. It is not like you are in intensive care." "I need help standing up. Mom said Aunt Karen can come." "Your mother has not called her." Chloe looked at Melissa. Melissa exhaled impatiently. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. You are making everyone feel guilty when there is nothing we can change. You can change whether you get on the plane." Melissa's eyes went cold. "We spent $8,000 because you wanted this trip. Do not punish us because your timing is terrible." My timing? As though I had scheduled my intestines around a resort cancellation policy. Then she said the line I will probably hear for the rest of my life. "Try not to make us feel guilty for having fun." Chloe picked up her suitcase. Neither of them hugged me for long. At the front door, Chloe said, "Text me if you need anything." I said, "I already did." She looked confused. "I asked you to stay." She left anyway. The garage door closed. The house became silent. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan and thinking about 22 years of marriage and 20 years of fatherhood compressed into 2 water bottles and a sleeve of crackers. I do not know how long I lay there. Pain medication turns hours into soft edges. At some point I needed the bathroom and nearly fell because I stood too quickly. I caught myself against the wall and felt the incision pull. That scared me enough to call my sister Karen. I hated doing it. Karen was 51, divorced, worked full-time at a school district, and cared for our mother on weekends. She answered immediately. When I explained, there was a silence, then one question. "They left?" "The trip was paid for." "Thomas," I heard keys moving. "I am coming." 40 minutes later, Karen walked into my bedroom carrying soup, electrolyte drinks, and the exact expression she used when our father tried to repair electrical wiring with duct tape. "I am going to say something rude about your wife later," she told me. "Right now, when did you last eat?" She helped me sit, checked my discharge instructions, changed the trash, and called her son Ryan to bring an extra pillow wedge. Ryan was 24 and worked nights at a barbecue restaurant while saving to start a food truck. Melissa had called him unmotivated at multiple family dinners because he had left college after 1 year. Ryan arrived in a hoodie, smelling faintly of smoke and brisket. He looked at me, then at the empty house, and said, "I can stay tonight. You have work. I work at 4 tomorrow, then go home." "Uncle Tom, you cannot get to the bathroom without grabbing the wall." He stayed. He heated soup, set alarms for my medication, and slept on the couch. The next day, he called his manager and traded shifts. 2 days later, I overheard him telling Karen he had postponed an interview with a catering company because he did not want to leave me alone for 6 hours. He never told me directly. The kid my wife called a dropout gave up an opportunity without asking for credit, while my wife posted sunrise photos from Maui. The next day, Chloe texted, "How are you feeling?" I wanted to protect her from the weight of a real answer. Then I decided I had been protecting everyone too long. I wrote, "Better today, still very sore. Ryan has been staying here and helping me shower, eat, and move around. I was scared the first night. I wish you had stayed. I love you. No accusation, no insult. Just truth." She did not respond for 6 hours. The next morning, Ryan showed me a video reluctantly because he knew I would eventually see it. Chloe and Brenda's daughter were sitting beside the resort pool, reenacting dramatic parent texts. Chloe read a shortened version of my message in an exaggerated, serious voice. "I was scared. I wish you had stayed. I love you." Then she looked into the camera and said, "Dad's after one minor surgery." Brenda's daughter pretended to faint. The caption read, "When guilt trips have better Wi-Fi than Hawaii. Tens of thousands of views." Melissa had commented, "He survived raising you. He'll survive this." I felt something colder than anger. I deleted the second message I had been writing Chloe about how I remembered teaching her to swim, how afraid I had been in the hospital, how much I missed her. Ryan sat beside me at the kitchen island. "I am sorry," he said. "Do not apologize for her. She is being awful." I nodded. Yes. It was the first time I had said it without softening. On day 4, a certified letter arrived from our mortgage lender. Karen brought in the mail and set the yellow envelope beside me. I opened it slowly because bending hurt. The house payment was 89 days overdue. I thought it was an error. Our mortgage had been on automatic payment for years. I logged into the account and discovered autopay had been disabled. The contact email had been changed to Melissa's business address. 3 payments had not been made. I opened our joint checking. The balance was far lower than expected. Transfers had been moving out in $2,000 and $3,000 increments to Melissa's studio account. Some were labeled vendor reimbursement. Others went directly to wedding vendors I recognized from Chloe's planning spreadsheet: florist, lighting, custom bar rental, invitation designer. Another $9,000 had gone toward a deposit on a larger studio Melissa had never mentioned. I called the mortgage company and caught up one payment from my personal emergency savings so the account would not get worse while I understood the problem. Then I called Melissa. She answered from what sounded like a restaurant. "Is something wrong? Why is the mortgage 3 months behind?" Silence. "Thomas, this is not a good time." "Why is the mortgage behind?" "Cash flow got tight. We had enough in checking." Chloe's deposits came faster than expected. My new studio required a commitment. I was moving money around. Without telling me. Because every financial conversation with you becomes negative. You stopped paying our house so you could pay wedding vendors. Do not reduce it like that. How should I describe it? We have equity. Your bonus comes in December. The mortgage was not going anywhere. I looked around the kitchen Ryan had cleaned while I slept. You were risking our home for flowers and a larger studio. You are being dramatic again. The word hit differently now. Did Chloe know? Melissa hesitated. She knew we were helping more with the wedding. Did she know the mortgage was behind? Of course not. You transferred almost $19,000 in 3 months. It is our money. Then why hide it? She lowered her voice. I am in Hawaii. We are not doing this now. You are right. Good. We are doing it when you get home. Until then, the joint credit cards are frozen. She laughed because she thought I was bluffing. Do not be ridiculous. I'm not funding another dinner, spa day, or excursion while the mortgage is overdue. You would humiliate me in front of Brenda? There it was. Not how will we eat, not are you okay? Humiliate me. Brenda can pay. Enjoy the rest of the trip. I ended the call and froze both joint cards. 30 minutes later, text messages started. Turn them back on. This is financial abuse. Chloe is crying. You are ruining the only good week we have had all year. I cannot believe you are punishing your daughter because you are mad at me. I answered once. Your daughter mocked my recovery publicly while you laughed. The mortgage is 3 months behind because money was diverted without my knowledge. Discretionary spending is paused until we review the household finances together. Melissa replied with a single sentence, You have changed. I stared at it and thought, finally. The flight home landed 3 days later. By then I could walk slowly without help. Karen had returned to work, but Ryan still checked on me daily. I had gone through 12 months of statements. The picture was worse than I expected, but not criminal, not complicated, and not glamorous. Melissa's design business had lost money for almost a year. Instead of closing the larger showroom she could not afford, she transferred household money into it. Chloe's wedding budget had grown from $45,000 to nearly $80,000 because Melissa kept approving upgrades to impress Evan's family. They had already committed more than $30,000 of our money, including the $25,000 we had originally agreed to. Chloe's apartment, sorority expenses, car insurance, phone, and monthly allowance added another $22,000 each year. Our lifestyle worked because I kept working more and asking fewer questions. I had been funding a family that believed the funding was simply the natural climate of the house. Melissa and Chloe arrived home, sunburned, angry, and dragging designer luggage through the entryway. Chloe walked past me without a hug. Melissa dropped her purse on the island. We need to fix the cards. Sit down. I am not sitting until you explain why you embarrassed us. The bank statements explain it. I had printed them and highlighted every transfer. Melissa looked at the pages and immediately became defensive. You went through my business transactions? They came from our joint account. You have never respected my work. I funded it for 9 years. Chloe crossed her arms. Can we not do this right now? We just got off a flight. I looked at her. How was the pool video? Her face changed. Dad, was I funny? It was a joke. You use my message asking for help as content. You are making it sound worse. You read I was scared into a camera and laughed. Melissa interrupted. She is 20. Young people post things. Stop trying to make her feel horrible. I turned toward my wife. That is what you have done every time she crossed a line. You protected her from feeling bad instead of asking whether she did something bad. Chloe started crying. The old me would have ended the conversation immediately. Instead, I let her cry. Tears are not always evidence that the person crying has been wronged. Sometimes they are simply what accountability feels like the first time. I told them the changes. I would still pay the remaining tuition Chloe needed to graduate. I would pay health insurance and basic car insurance through the end of the school year. The monthly allowance was over. I would not renew her luxury apartment lease. She could move to a less expensive place, live with roommates, or work enough to cover the difference. The wedding contribution would stop at $25,000 total, exactly what we originally promised. Any upgrades already approved beyond that would be Melissa and Chloe's responsibility. You cannot do that, Chloe said. The florist contract is signed. Then reduce something else. Evan's parents already know what the wedding is supposed to look like. Then tell them what we can actually afford. She stared at me like I had asked her to hold a ceremony in a parking lot. You were doing this because of a video. No, the video showed me what the money has been purchasing. Melissa said I was humiliating our daughter during the most important year of her life. I answered, my surgery was 3 days of my life, and both of you left. That ended the conversation for the night. Melissa slept in the guest room. Chloe drove back to campus. Ryan came by one Sunday to help me walk around the neighborhood. I asked about the catering interview he missed. He shrugged and said the position had been filled. I am sorry. For what? He asked. You lost an opportunity because my family left. I made the choice. Exactly. I thought about those words for days. Ryan had chosen to help and accepted the cost without making me responsible for his sacrifice. My wife and daughter had treated my sacrifices as obligations and resented me the moment I stopped. I used some of my personal savings to help Ryan lease a used food trailer, but only after we wrote a real business plan together. He did not want a gift. We structured it as a small partnership. I handled budgeting and permits. He owned the menu and daily operation. We called it Northside Smoke and Supper. Melissa laughed when she heard. So you will invest in your nephew but not your daughter's wedding? Ryan brought me soup when I could not stand. So this is revenge? No. It is investment in someone who shows up. End of drawberry. Thanksgiving was held at Karen's house because my mother could not manage hosting anymore. I almost skipped it. Karen told me not to let shame isolate me from people who had not abandoned me. Melissa insisted we attend together because relatives already knew something was wrong. Chloe arrived with Evan and wore a cream sweater that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. For the first hour, everyone avoided the obvious subject. Then Melissa's friend Brenda, who had somehow remained close despite the credit card incident, made a joke about Thomas putting the family on austerity. Several people laughed uncertainly. Chloe said, "Tell me about it." Karen's eyes narrowed. I continued eating. Melissa should have stopped there. Instead, she lifted her wine glass and said, "Sometimes a medical scare changes people." Thomas came home from the hospital convinced everyone had been taking advantage of him. I set down my fork. "You left me alone 2 days after surgery." "We had a trip you booked." "I asked you to stay," Chloe whispered. "Dad, please." "No. Your mother made it public. Brenda said nobody intended to hurt me." I looked at her. "You slept in the master suite of the trip I paid for, while Ryan slept on my couch to help me stand up." She flushed. Melissa said, "This is exactly what I mean. You keep score." I started keeping score when the mortgage company told me the house was 3 months behind. The room went silent. My brother-in-law asked, "What?" Melissa's face hardened. "That is private." So was my recovery until Chloe made it content. Chloe looked at Evan. He had clearly never heard about the overdue mortgage. I brought a folder because I knew Melissa might rewrite the situation. I placed 3 pages beside my plate: mortgage history, transfers to the design studio, and wedding payments. No account numbers. No theatrics, just totals. The mortgage was not paid for 3 months because more than $19,000 moved into Melissa's business and wedding vendors. The wedding budget grew to almost $80,000 without my agreement. I was working 60-hour weeks and eating in my truck because I thought we were saving. We were not. Evan stared at Chloe. "You said your parents had the wedding covered." Chloe answered, "They did." "No," I said. "I had $25,000 covered. Your mother kept saying yes after that." Melissa slammed her napkin onto the table. "Because you always say no to anything beautiful." Karen laughed once. "He paid for Maui." Melissa ignored her. "Thomas wants everyone to think he is a martyr because he works." "No. I want everyone to understand why the answer is no now." Chloe began crying. "You are ruining my wedding. Your wedding can still happen. Not the way we planned." "Then the plan was bigger than your budget." She said, "You are my father. You are supposed to want to give me the best." I felt the sentence in my chest because I did want to give her the best. I simply no longer believed best meant expensive. "I wanted to give you a marriage that started without debt and entitlement," I said. "I confused that with giving you everything you asked for." Melissa accused me of punishing Chloe for her mistakes. I answered, "You are both adults. The money moved with both of you benefiting. The difference is I am no longer volunteering to be the only person who absorbs the cost." Evan asked Chloe whether she knew Melissa's studio was losing money. Chloe said no. Melissa said that was irrelevant. Karen finally said, "It is relevant when Tom is paying for all of you and getting mocked for asking for help." Brenda muttered that families should not reduce love to accounting. Ryan, who had been quiet near the end of the table, said, "Love is not accounting, but accounting tells you who keeps sending the bill." Nobody laughed. I looked at my daughter. "I am still paying $25,000 toward the wedding. I am still paying your tuition. I am not cutting you out of my life. I am ending the part where every no becomes proof I do not love you." Chloe whispered, "What if we lose the venue?" "Then choose a venue you can afford. Everyone already knows where it is." "That is not a financial plan," Melissa said. "People will talk." I turned toward her. "That sentence has cost us more than the mortgage." The table went. My mother, who had said almost nothing, reached for my hand. She is 78 and usually avoids family confrontation. "Thomas," she said, "your father worked himself sick because he thought providing meant nobody could be disappointed. Do not do the same thing." Melissa looked furious because an older woman had named the pattern without attacking her. Chloe looked away. I stood and said I was going home. Karen asked whether I wanted pie. Wrap it up, I said. Ryan laughed. The normality of that tiny exchange saved me from turning the night into a performance. On the drive home, Melissa stared out the window. You humiliated us. The numbers embarrassed you. I did not invent them. Chloe will remember this forever. So will I remember asking her to stay. She turned toward me. Do you even want this family anymore? It was the first honest question she had asked in months. I want a family where I am a person, not infrastructure. She began crying. I did not pull over. I did not tell her everything would be fine. Some questions need time more than comfort. Chloe's apology came later. The wedding was 6 weeks away when she asked to meet at a diner near my office. She arrived without Evan and pushed her phone across the table. The Maui video had been deleted months earlier, but she had saved a draft apology in her notes. I do not want to post it, she said. Good. She looked surprised. Why good? Because you do not owe strangers a performance. You owe me honesty. She stared at her hands. I knew you were scared when you texted. Yes, I made the video because Brenda's daughter said it would be funny, and I wanted to look unbothered. Mom laughed, so I thought it was okay. You were 20. That is old enough. I nodded. She began crying. I left because I wanted Hawaii more than I wanted to admit you needed me. That sentence mattered because it contained no excuse. I cannot undo it, she said. No. Do you still want to walk me down the aisle? My throat tightened. Yes, she looked relieved. But understand something. Walking you down the aisle does not mean we pretend Maui never happened. I know, and paying for part of your wedding does not buy forgiveness. I know. Then yes, the wedding was beautiful. Not because of the flowers or food, though both were lovely. It was beautiful because Chloe and Evan had made choices they could afford. Ryan's food truck catered the late-night meal. He served smoked chicken sliders and mac and cheese from the silver trailer we had spent months rebuilding. Chloe insisted on paying his full rate. Melissa designed the tables using rented pieces and local flowers. I walked my daughter down a shorter aisle than originally planned. Halfway there, she squeezed my arm and whispered, "Thank you for still being here." I said, "Keep becoming someone worth showing up for." She smiled through tears. Some people would call that harsh. I meant it as hope. Melissa and I did not return to the old marriage. We built something new slowly, and with more uncertainty than any social media caption could hold. She moved into the guest room for 6 months. We separated finances except for household costs. She paid half of what she could reasonably afford. I stopped rescuing her studio. She stopped treating my caution as lack of love. We stayed married, but the marriage survived only because the version that depended on my silence did not. There were boundaries. If she mocked my work, I named it immediately. If I felt resentful, I spoke before resentment became a ledger. We began taking smaller vacations we could both afford without overtime. The first one was 3 nights in Bentonville, Arkansas. No beach, no private pool. We ate barbecue, walked through museums, and came home without debt. Melissa posted one picture of us and asked before uploading it. That tiny question meant more to me than Maui ever did. Chloe graduated, moved into a modest apartment with Evan, and began paying her own phone and insurance. The first Christmas after the wedding, she gave me a framed screenshot of an old text from when she was 9. It said, "Dad, can you fix my bike, please?" Underneath, she had written by hand, "Thank you for fixing things. I am sorry I forgot you were one of them." I kept that frame in my office. I learned something during those months that I wish more people understood before resentment hardens their homes. Being the reliable person in a family can become a trap when everyone starts treating reliability as a natural resource instead of a human choice. The more you carry without complaint, the easier it becomes for other people to believe carrying does not cost you. Eventually, asking for help sounds shocking because everyone has built their comfort around your silence. My surgery did not create my family's selfishness. It exposed the arrangement. Melissa and Chloe did not suddenly become monsters because they boarded a plane. They had spent years learning that Dad would handle it. I helped teach them that. Every time I replaced honesty with, "Don't worry about it," I made the next expectation easier. Every time I paid, instead of asking whether something was necessary, I turned generosity into infrastructure. That does not excuse leaving me alone after surgery. It does explain why they believe doing so would not change anything. The most satisfying part of this story is not that I froze the cards, cut the wedding budget, or forced everyone to look at the mortgage statements. It is that the people who remained in my life learned a new rule. My love does not require my disappearance. Chloe can ask for help without assuming yes. Melissa can have ambitions without billing our marriage for the image. Ryan can accept support without surrendering responsibility. And I can be generous without confusing generosity with the right to be mistreated. I used to think a good husband and father was the man who could carry the most without dropping anything. Now I think a good man also knows when to put something down and ask the people beside him to carry their share. So tell me honestly, if your spouse and adult daughter left you alone days after emergency surgery for a vacation you paid for, mocked your fear online, and had secretly let the mortgage fall behind to fund a business and wedding lifestyle, would sincere apologies and years of changed behavior be enough for you to rebuild the family? Or would that trip be the moment you permanently walked away?